Hi everybody, Lucas here with yet another session of active reading. If you're not familiar with what active reading is, make sure you check out the description box. But basically, this is how I study. And active reading is reading out loud, kind of talk, at least this is how I do it, okay? Read out loud, talk to the text, explore it, go back and forth, analyze it, look things up and most importantly for me, reduce language. So you'll be seeing me speaking. This is a means by which I try to sharpen my speaking skill mostly. Okay, this is the main reason why I do this, and this is one of the ways by which I try to achieve that. Okay, to try to maintain a certain level, certain speaking level, especially. All right, so yet another text from another article from NPR, which is a great source of free content. And of course, you can make a donation for them to keep doing this work. And this is from their section, which is different from session, right? This is an active reading session, and Shots is the NPR section where they post about health news but where they post about health, well-being, things like that. Okay? This article here in particular is the headline is How to Be Not Lonely. Co-housing is an answer for some people. Okay, first of all, um, I'm a 35-year-old single gay man coming from a small family. I have one younger brother who lives with a disability. My parents are they're both alive, which is great. But our family is small, and we don't see kids. We don't see kids coming into play anytime soon. So chances are we are going to I don't want to use the expression end up, but we're gonna in the future we are still going to be a small nuclear family. Of course, I can partner up with somebody else. My brother can do the same, absolutely. But at the same time, chances are we might keep our plan small, right? And again, I'm a 35-year-old single man at this point. I don't see myself having children. And all of that goes to say that I've been thinking about aging and coping with the loneliness that can come with aging, right? And other issues and other consequences of, you know, moving up, uh, moving to different stages in life. So, yeah, this is why this article, this headline caught my attention. How to be not lonely. Co-housing is an answer for some people. Let's take a look at it. It's from December 1st, 2024, and was written by Katia Riddle. Okay, so a little group here. Let's see. Let me reframe it. Oops. Okay, just a second. No. Help me out. Come on. Okay, there you go. Good. How to be not lonely. Co-housing is an answer for some people. Okay. Right off the bat, co-housing is something that I really consider. Okay, I'm raising my hand apparently. I'm not. Okay, lower hand. All right. It's not going down. Wait, what do I do? Participants. I want to lower my hand. Whatever. Okay. So co-housing, this kind of community, these kinds of communities, they sound like a beautiful solution for that problem I mentioned before. Loneliness in in later stages in life. But not only, of course, take a look at this picture. What do you see? I mean, you definitely see elderly people, yes, but you see young people as well, and super young people as well, right? Babies even. So yeah, it could be an option for us not to be lonely in general in life, right? When I think, for example, when I think of the apartment buildings I've been living at, I've been okay, so this is what I do here. I check my pronunciation, I check my rhythm, I try to correct myself and be better. Okay. Again, when I think of the apartment buildings I've been living at to this day in the last decade, yes, we do share a building, literally, like we share that building, but we don't live together. We are far apart from each other. That's the truth, right? And this is different. I want to lower this hand. What do I do? Lower hand. There you go. Good. Residents of Daybreak Co-house. I'm reading the the caption here. Residents of Daybreak Co-housing in Portland, Oregon. Oregon. Residents of Daybreak Co-housing. Nope. Residents of Daybreak Co-housing in Portland, Oregon, gather in their shared courtyard. It's one of about 200 co-housing communities in the country. So apparently there is one co-housing unit for every 2 million for every 1.5 million people, American people. Okay, let's dive in. The meltdown started with a small thing, a bag of suckers. Rachel Damgan's 4-year-old son wanted one. She said no. A bag of suckers. Okay, sucker to me in this context sounds like a lollipop or some sort of candy. What's a sucker? Sucker candy. Let me look this up. Okay. Sucker. All right. This is exactly all right. I'm Brazilian, okay? I'm a Brazilian English teacher. I teach private private lessons to mostly to Brazilians. And this in Brazil, this sucker is what in Brazil we call a lollipop. What what other languages call lollipops includes suckers in Portuguese. Those are all lollipops, okay? All right, so Rachel's kid wanted a sucker and she said no. It was a few years ago in the middle of the pandemic when it was not unusual for her to be home alone for an 11-hour stretch with her two young kids. She was struggling with the isolation. Small obstacles felt outsized. Outsized. Okay. Bigger than they should. Out of proportion. Outsized. I'm so tired. I'm so depressed that all my problems, they really feel outsized. And the verb is good to accompany the adjective as well. When something feels outsized. I'm so low. Honestly, I'm so low in life that every tiny problem feels outsized. Good. So I'm going to write this down. This is this is what I do. New word for me, write it down. To feel outsized. And then you think of examples and produce. Produce language like I did. Okay. Um, I wound up on the floor crying too, Demgen remembers. Just holding both my kids and feeling like, man, this is impossible. Pandemic, isolation, staying in all day with little kids. Are you kidding me? Yeah, Rachel, I feel you. I wound up. To wind up is similar to end up. When something winds up, how did it wind up? Okay, when you wind up in a situation like Rachel did, is the same as saying that you ended up in that situation. To wind up is to end up. Same thing. It was a turning point. With their extended families far away in other states, she and her husband, Chris Demgen, began asking themselves if there was any way to reconfigure their lives in order to optimize for more support and community. A turning point, a point of, okay, a turning point when things turn, when you reach a certain point where something must change. Something has to happen from this from here on because otherwise we're gonna break, right? We're gonna what? We're gonna go crazy or we're gonna we can't cope from here on anymore. So a turning point, something has to change. Ponto de virada. Good. The answer they found was co-housing. Ta-da! Today, the Demgens live in a 30-unit planned community called Daybreak Co-housing in Portland, Oregon. The couple says the move has been a game changer. So moving there, moving into Daybreak Co-housing, where there are 29 other units and 29 other families with a similar mindset as theirs, was a game changer. It changed the game for this family, for Rachel and Chris's family. The couple says the move has been a game changer, both for their own mental health and for that of the entire family. We would not have had a third child if we hadn't been there. Ooh, okay, conditionals. We would not have had a third child if we hadn't been there, says Rachel Demgen. Their daughter, Caroline, is now 1 year old. If we hadn't been feeling so much better about how our lives were working, if we didn't know that we had the ability to holler, hey, to holler for a neighbor's help, and they would come. So if they didn't, if they didn't have those needs um met, if they didn't feel secure about these things like the ability to holler for a neighbor's help, to holler for a neighbor's help. Hey, excuse me. Hi, please, neighbor, can you help me? Holler. Hey, Gwen Stefani, holla back girl? Because I ain't no holla back girl. Holla is the lang that comes from holler, which means shout. Hey, good. So now that they had those things, they were they felt secure in that way, they were able to have another child. There are close to 200 of those co-housing communities across the country, across United States, across Brazil. So in all around the country. 200 of these co-housing communities across the country, according to the Co-housing Association. And those communities are what? Designed to facilitate community through shared resources and common spaces. What could be a common space in those places? Maybe communal kitchens, playgrounds, living, live. I don't want to say living rooms, but yeah, living rooms. Living areas. Mm. Members admit there are many trade-offs to living in such close proximity to their neighbors, including navigating a shared chore list and mutual financial arrangement. Okay, come on, advanced English. Let's go. Members admit there are many trade-offs. What's a trade-off? A trade-off, it's not a trade-of, it's a trade-off. It's not of as you pronounce the preposition, but off as opposed to on. Ok? Trade-off. A trade-off, um, contrapartida, tá? É uma contrapartida. E é nessa hora que a legenda não dá conta de me acompanhar, porque a legenda tá toda em inglês. Tá setada para inglês. Então tá só um gibberish, tá só um blá 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 aqui na legenda agora. É, a trade-off is what you receive in return of something, right? Of an action or something blinked. Anyway, so again, members admit there are many trade-offs to living in such close proximity to their neighbors. Stop there. Members admit there are many that you can get a lot of good things in return for living so close to your neighbors in such close proximity. Okay, let me try and use the word trade-off here. The trade-off to an preposition trade-off to here. It's not trade-off of, trade-off with, trade-off. It's trade-off to. So let's go. The trade-off to moving back to the countryside, back to my hometown, is that I have a beautiful backyard and I can hear the birds. That's a trade-off. Because otherwise, you could find downsides to it. You know what I mean? You could say, okay, yeah, downsides, bad things associated with that. But the trade-off is a beautiful and super calm backyard. Good. Moving on. So the trade-offs are, or the trade-offs include navigating a shared chore list and mutual financial arrangement. Oh, it's really a community. Shared chore list. What's a chore? Tasks you have to do around the house, things you do around the house. Doing the dishes, taking the trash away, doing the laundry. Those are chores, right? Mopping the floor, tidying up the space, whatever. Those are chores. So in those communities, in those co-housing communities, apparently there are shared chore lists, shared, compartilhadas, ok? Uma lista de tarefas compartilhadas, and mutual financial arrangement. There's a financial arrangement for the entire community. Good. But many also say that they found a way to conquer the loneliness and isolation that plagues so many Americans, especially today's parents. All right, plagues. A plague, praga, né? So when something plagues, the loneliness and isolation plagues so many Americans. É uma praga, sabe, que atormenta, enfim, é uma praga para tantos americanos, né? Como eu falei no início do vídeo, quando eu dei o contexto do porquê esse artigo chamou minha atenção. Neighbors, not necessarily best friends. The ease with which this community engages was on display on a recent day as neighbors, representing all generations, flowed in and out of the conversation and engaged with kids in the community's shared courtyard under a towering maple tree. Wow, the fuck. Again, The ease with which this community engages was on display on a recent day, as neighbors representing all generations flowed flowed in and out of the conversation and engaged with kids in the community's shared courtyard under a towering maple tree. The maple tree is so tall, is so um, opulent that it towers over over them, right? Tower, torre. Mas me fugiu a palavra agora, não é analogia, mas faz essa analogia de torre se referindo à árvore, porque ela é grande, ela cobre, enfim, ai, me fugiu em português. A araucária que tem aqui na frente, ela ela se impõe, ela é imponente, ela é como uma torre sobre nós aqui, ela se o quê? Sobre nós. Enfim, pensem num verbo aí para towering, tá? Mas é isso. Rachel Demgan's two older sons threw a football around with a neighbor while the adults chatted. Another neighbor's, sorry, another neighbor strolled by and offered to let the kids pet her dog. Strolled by. Okay, good. So when you go for a stroll is when you walk around. Just have a nice walk around. You have a good time. You take a stroll, um passeio. But apparently to stroll by. O by dá essa ideia de passagem, passou por ali, passeou por ali. Another what? Another neighbor strolled by and offered to let the kids pet her dog. Pet her dog. Oh, cute dog, good boy. To pet, fazer carinho no cachorro. Good. Um, Pat Brennan, Arnopol, and his daughter Alma, who is almost 2 years old, enjoy the shared, again, compartilhado, shared playground in the courtyard at Daybreak Co-housing. The residents here describe these relationships as a kind of third category, not family, not necessarily best friends. Third category, not family, not necessarily best friends. Good. Um, I think the closest comparison I can make is a college dorm, says Chris Demgen. Only this time there's a wall between you, and we're all adulting, allegedly. Okay, what I want to point out here is, okay, a comparison is something you make. Você faz uma comparação. To make a comparison. I think the closest comparison I can make is a college dorm. Mhm. With parenting especially, Chris Demgen describes a non-judgmental camaraderie. What? With parenting especially, Chris Demgen describes a non-judgmental camaraderie. With parenting especially, let me check the pronunciation of camaraderie. I'm not sure if it's camara or camaraderie. Pronunciation. Camara. Yeah, camaraderie. Camaraderie. It's more Latin. Yeah. With parenting especially, Chris Demgen describes a non-judgmental camaraderie that he doesn't feel in other shared spaces in US culture. Non-judgmental, where people don't judge. If it were judgmental, if it were a judgmental place, setting, it would mean that people do judge, but it's non-judgmental. Mhm. There's anguish, there's frustration, he says. But fundamentally, there's a feeling of struggling together. Good word here, struggling. When you struggle, when you're in trouble, when you're suffering in a way. To struggle is to resist suffering. Okay? The last time I struggled was when I first came back to my hometown because I was in the middle of a divorce per se. Or I had just broken up with my ex-boyfriend and I was struggling emotionally, of course. But fundamentally, there's a feeling of struggling together that goes a long way to combating any feeling of loneliness. Tá, agora eu diria para o meu aluno, marque esse I para mim. Eu falaria isso para quem fosse minha aluna, meu aluno nesse momento. Loneliness. Loneliness. Eu quero ouvir esse I. Loneliness, a pronúncia aqui, né? That goes a long way to combating any feeling of loneliness. E aí, o que que acontece? Now, see, when something that goes a long way, it's very efficient. It's a good way. When something goes a long way, it means um it's a good way of doing something, you know? So living in this kind of place for Chris is a good way to combating any feeling of loneliness. And attention here, it's a good way, or it goes a long way to combating gerund here. So let me try to produce something here. Um, Communicating your feelings goes a long way to combating miscommunication, to combating um yeah, to combating misunderstandings. So again, communicating your feelings clearly goes a long way to combating misunderstandings in a relationship. Um, Being honest with yourself and not and refusing to stay, okay, being honest with yourself and refusing to stay where you're not welcome anymore goes a long way to improving your self-esteem. Again, let me tell this whole story again. Eu farei isso com os alunos também. Me conta essa história inteira de novo. Refusing to stay in a place where you're not welcome anymore goes a long way to improving our self-esteem. Goes a long way to doing, goes a long way to improving. And again, guys, I'm doing this for myself, okay? This is my own practice. This is how I study. Yeah. So it might be repetitive for whoever's watching, for the viewers, right? Um, how long has this gone on? Let me see. Is there a timer here or something? Okay. Deanna Camp 33, what? Deanna Camp 73 has lived here for more than a decade. Camp lost her husband a few years ago, and despite missing him desperately, she says, she is not lonely. If she didn't live here, says Camp, she wouldn't be the same person at all. If she didn't live here, says Camp, she wouldn't be the same person at all. Um, if I didn't live here in my hometown at the moment, I could be struggling in some areas of my life. Deanna's one of the most social people I know, says Rachel Demgen. I'm pretty darn social, agrees Deanna, laughing. I bake cakes for almost every occasion. That's amazing. I'm pretty darn social. Okay, I'm pretty sure that darn is a more mild way of saying damn. Let me check it out. Let me double check, sorry. Darn, look, the exact words. Darn is a mild exclamation often used as a softer alternative to stronger swear words like damn. So yeah, I'm pretty darn social, agrees Deanna, laughing. I bake cakes for almost every occasion. The pronunciation here could be better. I bake cakes for almost every occasion. I bake cakes. Now, see what's happening here. I bake, 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 bake ends with a k sound. K, bake. And the next word, cakes, begins with a k sound. So we're going to link them together. We're going to link the sounds. I bake cakes. I bake cakes. You don't have to say I bake cakes. You can go I bake cakes for almost every occasion. Good. An idea imported from Denmark. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'll continue on my own without recording, but I think it's enough, especially because of the size of the file this recording will be. So yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next active reading.